Have you noticed that putting on your socks or stepping out of the shower feels like a high-stakes balancing act lately? Most men my age assume that getting wobbly is just the tax we pay for living a long life. It's not. It's a silent signal that your nervous system is losing its grip on your muscle fibers. I'm Dr. James Foster, and I've seen men in their 70s regain the stability of a 30-year-old. Today, we're ending the clumsy aging myth with a simple 10-second diagnostic and the only 3 movements that actually matter. To understand why you might be feeling less sure of your footing lately, we have to look past the surface of your muscles and dive into the sophisticated communication network between your brain and your feet. This is where most men over 50 start to lose the battle without even realizing it. You see, balance isn't just about strength. It's about a process called proprioception. Think of it as your body's internal GPS. This system relies on millions of tiny sensors in your joints and tendons that tell your brain exactly where you are in space without you having to look down. But as we age, specifically as we cross that 50-year-old threshold, those sensors start to get noisy. The signal weakens. Your brain begins to distrust the information coming from your legs, so it starts over-relying on your eyes to keep you upright. This is exactly why you might feel perfectly fine walking during the day, but the moment you step into a dimly lit hallway or try to navigate the bathroom in the middle of the night, you feel that sudden, heart-stopping lurch of instability. It's a frustrating and, frankly, emasculating feeling to realize you can't trust your own body to perform a basic human function. I've sat with many patients who felt that this wobble was the beginning of the end of their independence. But before we assume your muscles are wasting away, we need to test the hardware. I want you to try the eyes closed challenge right now. Stand near a kitchen counter for safety, lift 1 foot just 2 inches off the ground, and once you feel steady, close your eyes. If you find yourself reaching for the counter in less than 10 seconds, your brain has officially lost its primary connection to your lower body. This isn't just about aging. It's about a specific neurological disconnect that happens when we stop challenging our lateral stability. The good news is that the software can be rebooted. Most men fail this test, not because they are weak, but because they've stopped using the micro muscles in their ankles and feet that stabilize the entire kinetic chain. By identifying whether your struggle is purely neurological or a sign of deeper muscle atrophy, we can target the fix. It's about restoring that alpha level of physical certainty, so you never have to second-guess a step again. However, fixing the brain-foot connection is only half the battle, because there is a physical lock in your joints that might be sabotaging your progress before you even start. When you watch a man in his late 60s or 70s walk, you often notice a distinct pattern. The stride shortens, the feet stay close to the ground, and the hips seem to hinge forward. We call this the shuffling gait, and most men assume it's an inevitable byproduct of weakening knees or a bad back. But the reality is far more localized and, thankfully, more fixable. The true culprit is what I call the ankle lock trap. Your ankle is designed to be a high-mobility joint capable of deep dorsiflexion, the ability to pull your toes toward your shin. This movement is the mechanical trigger that allows your leg to swing through a full, confident stride. However, after decades of wearing stiff shoes, sitting at desks, and perhaps ignoring old sports injuries, the connective tissue around the talus bone begins to thicken and tighten. When your ankles lock up, your body is forced to compensate. Since you can't roll through your foot properly, your brain shifts your center of gravity forward to keep you from falling backward. This puts an immense, unnatural strain on your knees and lower back, leading to that chronic aching feeling after a simple walk around the block. It's a blow to your masculine confidence when you realize you're navigating the world with the tentative steps of someone twice your age. I remember a patient, a former marathon runner in his early 60s, who was devastated because he felt his legs were giving out. In reality, his legs were fine. His ankles were just frozen. We have to break that mechanical seal. A simple, daily ritual of wall mobilizations, leaning into a wall and driving your knee past your toes while keeping your heel glued to the floor, can begin to dissolve that internal scar tissue. By restoring just a few degrees of motion, You unlock the ability to strike the ground with your heel and push off with your toes, restoring this spring in your step that you haven't felt in 15 years. This isn't just about walking better. It's about restoring the structural integrity of your entire lower body. But once we unlock the ankles, we have to address the pillar that holds everything together, because a mobile ankle without a stable foundation is just another injury waiting to happen. Once we've addressed the mechanical block in your ankles, we have to look upward toward the command center of your lower body, the pelvis. For most men over 50, a lifetime of sitting has created a physiological disconnect where the upper body and lower body operate like two separate machines rather than a single, unified unit. This is why you might feel top-heavy or find yourself stumbling when you make a sudden turn. Your center of gravity has drifted upward toward your chest, making you physically unstable and prone to that jarring off-balance feeling. To fix this, we need to implement what I call the pelvic anchor. This isn't a traditional gym exercise. It's a neuromuscular reset designed to drop your weight back into your hips and legs, giving you what I describe to my patients as tank-like stability. Biologically, we are targeting the deep transverse abdominis and the psoas, the hidden bridge between your spine and your thighs. When these muscles are off, your gait becomes shallow and your balance becomes brittle. I remember a 62-year-old client, a former contractor, who told me he felt like he was walking on stilts every time he stepped on uneven grass. He wasn't weak. He was simply disconnected. To perform the pelvic anchor, you don't need equipment or even a change of clothes. Stand with your feet hip-width apart and imagine there is a heavy chain hanging from your tailbone, pulling it straight toward the floor. Soften your knees just an inch. Not a squat, just a release of the lock, and gently pull your belly button toward your spine while exhaling deeply. As you do this, press your big toes firmly into the ground. You will feel an immediate grounding sensation, as if your legs have suddenly doubled in weight and grip. This simple activation lowers your functional center of gravity instantly. It's a discrete movement you can practice while waiting for your coffee to brew or standing in line at the grocery store. By doing this for just 60 seconds a day, you are retraining your nervous system to keep your anchor dropped, ensuring that your foundation is rock solid before you even take a step. It's about moving with the deliberate, heavy-set confidence of a man who knows exactly where his feet are. However, being grounded is only part of the equation, because most falls don't happen when we are moving forward. They happen when we are forced to move sideways, which is where most men are dangerously vulnerable. As we age, our world tends to shrink into a single dimension, moving straight ahead. We walk forward, we climb stairs forward, and we sit down and stand up in a straight line. But life doesn't happen in a straight line. The moment you have to step around a dog in the hallway, dodge a puddle, or pivot quickly to catch something falling off a counter, you are entering the frontal plane, the side-to-side dimension where most men over 60 are dangerously fragile. This is where the lateral reset comes in. Biologically, the muscles responsible for this stability are the gluteus medius and the adductors. Think of these as the guy wires on a radio tower. If they go slack, the whole structure begins to sway. When these muscles atrophy, which they do rapidly if we only ever walk forward, your gait develops a telltale side-to-side wobble. This sway isn't just an aesthetic issue. It's a mechanical disaster that grinds down your hip sockets and makes every step feel like you're walking on a tightrope. I once worked with a 68-year-old retired officer who was a powerhouse in the gym, but nearly fell over every time he had to sidestep a grocery cart. He had the forward strength of a bull, but the lateral stability of a house of cards. To fix this, we use the sidestep tension drill. You don't need a gym, you just need a hallway. Stand with your back against a wall to ensure your posture is perfect, shoulders back, chin tucked, and take 10 slow, deliberate steps to your left, followed by 10 to your right. The key is to keep your toes pointed straight ahead, never letting them flare out. As you step, imagine you are pushing the floor away from you. You'll feel a deep, dull ache in the sides of your hips. That is your stability engine restarting. This simple habit retensions those guy wires, pulling your pelvis back into a level, powerful alignment. It eliminates that old man sway and replaces it with a wide, confident stance that says you are in total control of your gravity. It's about more than just avoiding a hip fracture. It's about the quiet dignity of moving with fluid, athletic grace regardless of the terrain. But even with a stable side-to-side foundation, there is one final ignition. Your body needs to ensure that when you need to move quickly, your muscles actually fire with the explosive power required to keep you upright. To truly reclaim your physical dominance after 50, we have to talk about the engine room of the male body, the posterior chain. This consists of your lower back, your hamstrings, and most importantly, your glutes. In the world of sports science, we often say that the glutes are the powerhouse of the human frame. But for the modern man who spends hours sitting, these muscles effectively go through a process called sensory-motor amnesia. They literally forget how to turn on. This isn't just a matter of aesthetics. It is a functional crisis. When your glutes are asleep, your lower back and knees are forced to take the brunt of every movement. This is precisely why so many men in their 60s find themselves doing the hand push off their thighs just to get out of a low sofa or a car seat. It's a subtle sign of surrender to aging that we often don't even realize we're doing until it's the only way we can stand up. Biologically, we're losing the explosive snap of the hip extension, which is the very movement that prevents a stumble from becoming a devastating fall. I once worked with a 65-year-old executive who was terrified of losing his edge. He felt slow, heavy, and weak in his lower half. We didn't put him on a heavy squat rack. We simply performed the posterior chain ignite. This movement is designed to bypass the ego and go straight to the neurological connection of the hip hinge. To do this, find a sturdy chair or a bench. Stand about 6 inches in front of it, facing away. Instead of just sitting down, I want you to push your hips back as if you're trying to touch a wall behind you with your tailbone, keeping your shins completely vertical. Hover just 1 inch above the seat for 3 seconds, feeling that deep burn in the back of your legs, and then drive through your heels to snap back to a standing position. This hover and snap protocol forces your brain to re-recruit the massive muscle fibers in your glutes that have been dormant for years. By practicing this for just 10 reps every morning, you're building the functional torque required to move your own body weight with effortless power. You're telling your nervous system that you are still a capable, high-performance machine. It's the difference between heaving yourself upward and rising with intent. But even the strongest engine needs a consistent maintenance schedule, which is why we must weave these movements into the very fabric of your daily life, so they become as natural as breathing. The greatest barrier to physical longevity isn't a lack of effort. It is a lack of consistency. Most men over 50 fail because they treat exercise like an appointment they have to keep rather than a state of being. To truly cement these changes, we need to move these movements out of the workout category and into the lifestyle category. This is what I call the morning floor ritual. It is a seamless, 2-minute sequence designed to be performed while your morning coffee is brewing or while you're waiting for the shower to warm up. By anchoring these habits to something you already do every single day, you bypass the friction of finding time and turn your home into a laboratory for vitality. Biologically, we're taking advantage of your body's morning cortisol spike to prime your nervous system for the day ahead. Start by standing at your kitchen counter. This is your safety net. Perform 3 rounds of the pelvic anchor, exhaling all your air to wake up those deep stabilizers. Immediately transition into 10 slow lateral reset steps as you move toward the cupboard. Finally, execute 5 reps of the posterior chain ignite using a kitchen chair or even the edge of a sturdy table. I remember a 64-year-old architect who told me he felt like a different man after just 2 weeks of this ritual. He didn't have to go to a gym. He just regained the snap in his muscles before he even left his house. This isn't just about balance. It's about starting your day with a physical win. When you move through your morning with that grounded, powerful energy, it sets a psychological tone for everything else you do. You aren't just a man who is getting older. You are a man who is actively maintaining his machine. This 2-minute investment is the ultimate insurance policy against the slow, creeping frailty that catches so many men off guard in their 60s. It's about building a body that is ready for anything, from a weekend hike to a sudden trip on a curb. But as we wrap up this protocol, I want you to remember one vital truth about the journey you're on, because the way you view your own aging process is actually the most powerful tool in your entire arsenal. Look, you aren't broken just because you feel a bit unsteady. Your body has simply spent decades adapting to sitting in stress, and it's forgotten how to talk to your feet. By implementing these 3 movements, you aren't just preventing a fall. You're reclaiming the physical autonomy that defines your masculinity. You deserve to move through the world with the same quiet confidence you had in your 20s. We're building a community of men here who refuse to settle for a slow decline. If you're ready to stop second-guessing every step and start feeling grounded again, hit that subscribe button and join us. Drop a comment below if you passed or failed the 10-second test. There's no judgment here, only a path forward. Let's get back to being the strongest version of ourselves, one step at a time.